Very important question for you. Can I shove this up your booty?
Huliin mo yan. Huliin mo.
You know that split second when reality hits you and you realize you've messed up so badly that there's absolutely no undo button left to press. Now take that feeling, crank it up 1,000 times, throw in 9 brutal months inside a Filipino prison, and you'll start to understand the nightmare Vitaly Zdorovetskiy is living right now. Because this isn't just another controversy or a temporary cancellation. This man has officially learned that he's being deported to Russia, and more than likely, he's never setting foot in the United States ever again. We're talking about someone who once pulled in millions upon millions of views with viral pranks, who lived the American dream in front of a camera, and who now stands as a global cautionary tale of how fast fame, arrogance, and bad decisions can completely destroy a life.
The more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
And honestly, the fact that he's even still breathing right now is kind of shocking when you consider where he's been locked up for the last 9 months. So let's actually break down this completely insane update in the Vitaly Zdorovetskiy situation and explain why his entire career is basically finished before he even sets foot in Moscow. Now, for anyone who somehow missed this absolute dumpster fire of a story, let me rewind it for you real quick. Back in April of last year, Vitali thought it would be a genius move to fly over to the Philippines and do what he's always done: harass random people in public for content. The only problem is, this time he chose the wrong country to play those games in. We're talking about a guy who was out there stealing police motorcycles, snatching hats off security guards, wrestling with armed officers, and acting like laws, consequences, and basic human logic simply didn't apply to him. He even went as far as threatening to rob an elderly woman on camera because, in his mind, that apparently counts as comedy. And here's where things really went sideways. Vitali assumed the Philippines would treat him like every other place he'd caused chaos before. Maybe a warning, maybe a fine, maybe a quick deportation, and then he'd move on to the next country like nothing happened. Except that's not how it played out at all, because the Philippines had someone else watching this mess unfold. John Vic Remula, he's the Secretary of Justice over there, and once he saw Vitali's behavior, he basically said, nope, absolutely not. Instead of letting him slip away with a slap on the wrist, they decided to make a very public example out of him. So rather than immediately deporting him, they threw him straight into the Filipino prison system and let him experience the full reality of it. And when I say hospitality, I mean the exact opposite. These are prisons that are insanely overcrowded, where people are packed together like sardines. No air conditioning in a brutal tropical climate, food that costs about $1 a day, and conditions so harsh that Vitali went from looking like a semi-fit YouTuber to someone who looks like he's been surviving off cave water and bad decisions. And the craziest part is that none of this was accidental. He did this to himself. During his first court appearance, instead of showing any remorse or apologizing, he decided to mock the entire justice system. He laughed, cracked jokes, and even clapped for himself while they played footage of his crimes in court. Like, dude, read the room. You're in a foreign country facing serious charges, and you're treating it like it's just more content for your stream. That's not confidence, that's pure stupidity. And the Filipino government made sure he fully understood the difference over the next 9 months. Fast forward to about a week ago, and we finally got a real update on Vitali's condition. And the transformation is wild. This man went from clean-cut prank YouTuber to looking like he's about to audition as a caveman in a history documentary. Full beard, hair down past his shoulders, and this empty, worn-out look in his eyes that says he's seen something. Things that probably involve sharing a tiny cell with way too many people and replaying every terrible life choice that led him there. But here's where the situation really takes a turn. Just yesterday, Ramallah held another press conference, and this time it was to announce Vitali's deportation. Sounds like good news, right? Not exactly, because there's a massive catch that basically destroys whatever future this guy thought he still had. Vitali isn't being deported back to the United States. Even though he's lived there for years, even though he has a green card, even though his mum is there and his entire life is based in America, none of that matters. He's being deported to Russia. Why? Because on paper, he's still a Russian citizen. That's the passport he holds. And here's the wild part. Both the US and Russia made it clear months ago that they weren't exactly eager to claim him. The US was basically like, yeah, he has a green card, but this isn't our problem. And Russia's stance was more like, if you're in another country, follow their laws or deal with the consequences. So Vitali ended up in this weird international limbo, stuck in a Filipino prison with nowhere willing to step in for him. And now that he's finally being released, he's being sent to a country where he has no real connections, no close family, and honestly, no realistic future for his career. Because let's talk about content creation for a second. Russia has extremely strict rules when it comes to streaming and online platforms. YouTube monetization has basically been dead since 2022. Instagram and Facebook are blocked. TikTok live streaming is heavily restricted, and there are serious laws about what you can and can't show on camera. So everything that made Vitaly's content work, shock value, public pranks, controversial behavior, is either heavily restricted or outright banned. That means even if he tried to keep going, he'd be doing it with no income and a constant risk of getting arrested again for violating censorship laws. And let's be honest, if Vitali couldn't follow the rules in the Philippines, what makes anyone think he's suddenly going to become a disciplined, law-abiding citizen in Russia? Maybe 9 months in a Philippine prison humbled him, but this is still a guy whose entire brand is built on pushing limits and doing exactly what he's told not to do. That mindset doesn't exactly survive in a country with heavy government oversight, and it gets even worse, because even if he somehow adapts and finds a way to make content, the chances of him ever returning to the United States are basically non-existent. Being deported for criminal activity, especially after spending 9 months in prison, doesn't just disappear. That follows you forever. And since Vitali was only in the US on a green card, not as a full citizen, that makes things even worse. Green cards can be revoked for criminal behavior, and I think it's safe to say an international incident ending in a 9-month prison sentence qualifies. So this man is about to land in Moscow with no plan, no support system, no real way to make money doing what he knows, and no path back to the country where his entire life was built. So again,
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
and honestly, I don't feel bad for him at all. Not even for a second, because every single part of this situation was completely avoidable. Nobody forced Vitaly Zdorovetskiy to fly to the Philippines and behave the way he did. Nobody made him harass random people, steal from police officers, or act like basic laws were optional. And absolutely nobody told him to laugh, joke, and mock the justice system after he got arrested. Those were all choices he made on his own. So what he's dealing with right now isn't bad luck or unfair treatment. It's the direct result of his own actions. This is what happens when you build an entire career around being a public nuisance and convince yourself that fame makes you untouchable. Eventually, you end up in a place where nobody cares about your subscriber count, your views, or how viral you used to be. All they care about is that you broke their laws and disrespected their country. And honestly, the Filipino government handled this situation exactly the way they should have. They didn't just give him a warning, take a fine, and quietly send him home. They made him sit in their prison system for 9 full months and experience firsthand what happens when you treat another country like your personal content playground. And now, on top of that, they're sending him to a place where continuing the same type of content is going to be almost impossible. That's not cruelty, that's consequences, that's accountability. And it's a reminder to all these nuisance streamers out there that you can't always apologize your way out of trouble or throw money at a problem and make it disappear. Sometimes reality catches up to you in a way you can't escape. Now, during the press conference, John Vic Ramulla made it clear that there's no personal hatred toward Vitali. He said the guy served his sentence, has now shown remorse, and is free to leave. But let's be real for a moment. That remorse probably didn't show up until about 6 months into his sentence, when it finally hit him that this wasn't just another controversy that would blow over. Because if you look at Vitali in the recent footage, that's not the face of someone excited about what comes next. That's the face of someone who just realized he destroyed his entire life for content that people forgot about a few weeks later. So that's how Vitali found out he's never coming back to America. Not with a dramatic moment or some big finale, but through a quiet press conference in a language he probably doesn't even understand, officially announcing that his old life is over. But what do you think? Did Vitali get exactly what he deserved, or did the Philippines go too far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.